Good evening, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion. This is for Saturday, June the 29th, 2024. We have a lot to talk about in regards to Beryl that continues to rapidly intensify. It's hard to believe yesterday's stream, at the beginning of it, we were only looking at an invest, then it became a tropical depression since over basically yesterday afternoon into the evening hours, and now we're here talking about a formidable hurricane, possibly a Category 2 hurricane already, as Beryl continues to rapidly intensify. And unfortunately, this was pretty well modeled not only by the GFS, but most of our hurricane models did indicate that this could in fact rapidly intensify, and we're seeing that today. So this is a look at the wide view. Again, Beryl right here. We have an area to really watch, 94L, that is straddling over the Yucatan, moving into the southern Bay of Campeche over the next 24 hours. That could also become our next system, potentially, but it won't have time to really get organized. And then, hard to believe, we have another wave out here in the deep tropics that could also become a huge threat to the Leeward Islands later on into next week. And for the following week, that is the second week of July, we're probably going to have to really talk about that one. But in this case, only one storm at a time, and that is Beryl. Everyone's probably wondering about Beryl right now. And here's a look at the latest. This is a look at the GOES 16 true color visible satellite imagery. Let me get my epic, not my epic pin, but my cursor. Let's expand the cursor a little bit so you all can follow along nicely of what we're actually talking about. So when we take a look at Beryl, very compact system. Now there's no eye yet evident here on the satellite imagery, especially on the infrared. But what you're about to see is some deep convection that is already beginning to close off on the northern eyewall. We can show you some microwave paths here in a little bit, but this is what the system is doing right now. It is moving still briskly off towards, again, the west-northwesterly direction at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. And again, very organized structure on this. So this look now, another product that we could actually look at is our Mesosector 1. So we're actually going to invite that for the stream. Once all the frames actually load, we'll bring that up. So this is what the system has evolved into. Let's actually load in a few more frames. Let's actually load in 120 frames so we can get a better glance at with what we're dealing with. So this is the infrared channel 13 satellite imagery from tropicaltidbits.com. Dr. Levi Cowan at showing this. And what we have right now is earlier we had some very explosive deep convection that has been persisting over the southern and eastern sides of the circulation. Now in the last about hour or so, we have indeed probably have a well established eyewall, maybe a little bit open to the north, but the eyewall is pretty well evident here. We can see where the center is. We have some very deep convection that is occurring just to the southeast of the center. We have some cloud tops that are approaching negative 80 Celsius. We have another lobe of cloud tops here that are about negative 70 Celsius. So this is indeed a very intense hurricane, very compact in nature. Don't let the size fool you, because we could be definitely looking at some strong hurricane force winds here, probably about 80 to about 85 miles an hour, and this is going to continue to rapidly intensify. Based on what I'm seeing, I don't think this has really stopped intensifying yet, because we're seeing some very intense deep convection. And with this moist envelope that is well established, this is right in the middle of that wave pattern. We're seeing a lot of moisture keeping this thing really going at an intense rate. So this, another way we could analyze this, and it's unfortunate that we barely got the edge of this on Beryl from a microwave pass. This is the only way we can see the system's structure. When Recon flies into there tomorrow, good news, I am not working tomorrow, so I will be doing a lot of updates on this after church in the morning. I may not even, we'll see about that. But what we have here is a very well intense convective ring here. We have deep convection that is surrounding the western, southern. We were not able to get the eastern side, but I could assume you already, because of the northern side has some of that deep convection. We're starting to see some of that. Hold on a second. All right, sorry you guys. I hope you guys didn't hear me yelling there. So I will be right back in just a second. Hold on, folks. I hate being interrupted by family when I'm actually covering a life-threatening situation. Sorry about that. I am so sorry. We're getting rid of a lot of junk. We're actually I shouldn't say it here on the stream. We're getting rid of a lot of junk. So yeah, family's over. But this is really important. I mean, it's very important. So like I said, we have a ring of deep convection that is going on. The microwave pass was not able to see that, unfortunately. But I can prove you right that the satellite imagery clearly does have some very intense deep convection. And yeah, look at that. We have a little bit of some intense convection wrapping on the northern side of this. So this is strengthening right now as we speak. So now the question is, what is the environment looking like ahead of this system? So this is on the, okay, let's go to that. I hope you, okay, good, that I did capture that. I wanted to make sure that I was able to capture that. So this look at the ship's model. So this look at the statistical hurricane intensity prediction scheme, not system, scheme, forecast for Beryl. All right, and this was initialized 0Z. So this was initialized just about an hour or two ago. And the rapid intensification. So the first thing that I want to show you all is what are the chances of rapid intensification? Well, there's a 62% chance. That's 5.7 times the climatological mean for winds to increase 25 knots in the next 24 hours. But look at this. Right up in here, we have a 42% chance that winds could increase to near 50 knots. 50 more knots in 36 hours. That would bring this to a major hurricane in about 36 hours, right in time when it hits these islands. So it's not surprising from the ship's model that is predicting a 42% chance, 9.2 times the climatological mean for rapid intensification. And there is even a non-zero chance, a 26% chance that we could have winds increasing to 65 knots. So imagining this, 75 plus 65 knots. Let me do the math. That is very strong. Potentially 120 knots perhaps. So let's actually do the math here. So we got 75 plus potentially 65 knots. It'd be 140 knots. So more than 120, I guess. So 140 knots at the very high end limit of this system potentially, and this would be in 3 days. So in about 3 days, it is over here on the thumbnail, and that's where we have the chances of a Category 3 hurricane, potentially a Category 4 hurricane on this specific model. Now, the environmental factors, again, from the statistical hurricane intensity prediction scheme, upper ocean heat content. So we're going to do some check marks here. Perfect conditions for that, for upper ocean heat content. Lots of moisture, not a problem. Sea surface temperature is not a problem. Wind shear, yeah, day 4, day 5, actually less than 10 knots. The strongest this gets is potentially around 15 knots. So pretty much of a green light there, unfortunately. The maximum potential intensity is still up there. So pretty much everything here is not going to inhibit much of the development of Beryl, at least through the next 2 or 3 days. There is a guarantee shear is going to be very light, potentially as low as 5 knots in about a couple of days. So yeah, that's not good. That is definitely not good at all, given the fact that Beryl is actually outperforming a lot of the forecasts, other than potentially what we have here in tonight's update is on the H-Wharf model on Beryl. So when you take a look at how strong this could actually end up getting, is this. So this is the 18Z run, and I want to just show you the 12Z run because that's more of the complete model data put into the system, and then we'll look at the 18Z run. But either way, we're looking at a very intense hurricane. So the 12Z run from this morning really is in line. This impacting Barbados, this would probably be the most likely scenario with winds nearing major hurricane intensity. That's what I think is going to end up happening. But not to be surprising, this could end up being a little stronger than what this model is showing. But watch this. Once it departs these islands, it really gains intensity. Look at this. In 66 hours, we could be looking at a strong Category 4 hurricane in the middle of the Caribbean. And then look at this. This gets even stronger. Potentially a Category 5 hurricane. Yes, 140 knots at the surface. When we look at 850 millibars, that's 180 knots. That's a Category 5 hurricane on this model specifically. And if this comes to pass, this would be absolutely catastrophic, absolutely devastating for Jamaica. Very, very unfortunate here. If this actually comes to pass on the hurricane, on the H-Wharf, which is a little over 4 days out. Hurricane force winds even make landfall. Look at some of the higher elevations here. We are looking at hurricane force winds on this model, and this moves, rides, literally drifts over Jamaica, and then eventually this could impact the Cayman Islands within about 5 days. And look at that pressure there, 940 millibars on approach to Jamaica. And you can bet when we look at the rainfall forecast, which we'll show you here briefly, very intense rainfall. So now let's kind of look back at what now the 18Z run shows from this model. And again, we need to understand this is showing 62 knot winds. So of course, this is not being well caught up to the current intensity on the H-Wharf. So what I'm trying to tell you here is if we look at the 12Z, we had winds of about 70 knots, and that's not even the current intensity. Right now, the current intensity is, if we actually go back, let's see if I can do that. So the current intensity right now is about 75 knots, which makes sense. This is 67 knots. This is the worst case scenario model right here. So the fact that the hurricane, and again, I want you all to really pay attention up here. See where it says 0Z? I'm going to do a little box. I hope you all can see this. I really want to make sure I'm covering the best that I can. That's 0Z. That is now. That is current. And this is where the system is in relation to with what we're seeing on satellite. And if we actually go back and look at satellite, let's pause it here. This is exactly where our system actually is. So it is roughly right there. And if we look at the map here on the H-Wharf, it is very similar. So I am honestly thinking, unfortunately, that the wharf model, the hurricane-specific meso model, may not be catching up to the current intensity of Beryl right now, because Beryl is intensifying so quick that the H wharf is not able to kind of catch up to that intensity. So it is not surprising right now to see this. And this is the 18Z run. So when we go forward by tomorrow afternoon, we can be looking at well, apparently here it shows 78 knot winds. So that's about 90-ish miles an hour. So according to this model, it's not going to really intensify much more than this. That could be an understatement because of what we're seeing. And then look what happens when we go forward here. Really, once we get into really Sunday night into Monday, this really explodes with intensity down to 960 millibars with 130 mile an hour winds. This is actually more intense than the 12Z run and actually more intense than the 06Z run. So we have seen a huge marked trend to a more intense system. Now, the good news here is it passes just to the south of Barbados, but it could impact, again, Grenada as well as St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines down here. These islands could get demolished. We could see a lot of damage, catastrophic impacts potentially on these islands by Monday late morning, early afternoon. And to get some info about this could end up being a major hurricane on the last day of June. Just FYI about that. This is very early for a major hurricane. It's technically not July yet, and we're seeing a major hurricane, believe it or not. And then this model still has a very intense hurricane, possibly cusping Category 4 intensity within the next 3 days. This is a 3-day forecast, and we're looking at a Category 4 hurricane. And then still on this run, this has shifted a little south for reference. Again, here is Jamaica on the H wharf. And this is the latest run ran by the National Weather Service on the H wharf. This is the 12Z run. So we can see that Jamaica now is going to be to the north of where the circulation is going to be, but still tropical storm force winds encroaching and swallowing up Jamaica easily as this passes through. And on this model, this could survive for a while. We could be looking at a major hurricane through the entire 5-day forecast, according to with what the H wharf actually shows. Now, there's not just one model we have to look at. We're going to actually look at the HMON, which has a more stronger system. And this still is lacking the current intensity of Beryl right now. But it does show a more realistic outcome. By Sunday afternoon, we are at major hurricane intensity. And this seems more reasonable. Oh, we got a new NHC update, emergency update from the NHC. Okay, let's bring that up. 85 miles an hour. Man, that is... Actually, that is... Let me archive this. I think it did strengthen a little bit. Darn it. Okay, the 8 p.m. The 8 p.m. update, 80. So it's still increasing. We're seeing 85 mile an hour winds on this right now. So this is intensifying very quickly. It is about 15 knots ahead of the H wharf and some of the models. And let's actually read this. All right, we got to read this because that's my job. And then we're going to finish looking at the hurricane models. I wanted to time this as early as I could ahead of the update from the NHC. So Beryl continues to strengthen rapidly this evening. Cold convective cloud tops between -70 to -80 Celsius. That's what they're seeing. They're seeing this burst of deep convection. Yeah, look at this. A new burst of deep convection popping off on the northern side now. So this is indeed a closed eyewall, potentially, are now wrapping fully around the center after earlier being confined to its southern semicircle. After the prior advisory, a late arriving SSMIS microwave pass revealed a small closed eyewall now exists. So the eyewall now It really, and if we look at this, this is what they're looking at. We can see that eyewall. So indeed, it is closed, and that's not a surprise. So we have now a full closed eyewall, and this is a concern because once that eyewall completely closes off, Beryl is actually able to intensify at even a faster rate than what we were seeing just over the last 24 hours. In fact, this is really remarkable to see. We have a hurricane. Yesterday morning, we had a tropical, an invest, not even a tropical depression. So it is really remarkable to see how strong Beryl has actually gotten since it was first dubbed from the NHC as a depression. So the latest subjective and objective intensity estimates range between 65 to 80 knots, and based on the continued improved structure on satellite imagery, the intensity is set at 75 knots. Towards the upper end of these estimates, as earlier mentioned, both the NOAA Hurricane Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters will investigate Beryl tomorrow morning, which will provide our first in situ data to assess the hurricane. So we're going to basically, we'll look at the track. So this is basically where this is going to be moving towards, and it's pretty much straightforward. Ridge to the north, the system is going to move towards the west-northwest. So what I really want to spend time on is this paragraph from the National Hurricane Center. Unfortunately, Beryl has all the ingredients favorable for continued rapid intensification in the short term. The light to moderate easterly shear that has been affecting the system is now subsiding, while the hurricane remains embedded in a large area of deep layer moisture and over 28 to 29 Celsius sea surface temperatures. The small and well-organized inner core likely means that the hurricane should take full advantage of these pristine conditions, and both the GFS and the ECMWF versions of the ship's rapid intensification index now show explosive intensification indexes of 7 to 10 times above climatology. That is incredible, folks. That is a big, big deal. That is something that is not usually realized until August. Thus, the latest NHC forecast will explicitly show rapid intensification over the next day, making Beryl a very dangerous Category 3 hurricane before it moves across the Windward Islands by tomorrow night. Once Beryl enters the Caribbean, there should be a marked increase in westerly vertical wind shear as a strong easterly low-level jet, common for this time of the year in the eastern Caribbean Sea, will keep Beryl moving quickly westward against lighter upper-level easterlies, partially eroded by a deep layer trough off the eastern seaboard. Thus, some weakening is forecast after 48 hours as Beryl moves further into the Caribbean. The NHC forecast remains close. All right. So let's take a look at the intensity now. Very close, appearing to a Category 4 hurricane. Absolutely close. Only 5 miles an hour shy of a Category 4 intensity hurricane in 36 hours. It is very hard to believe. Just for reference, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, evening, and by Monday morning, the first day of July, we could be looking at a Category 3 or at times, or perhaps breaching a Category 4 hurricane. Absolutely insanity. And I'm not saying this to cause fear, to cause panic, but remember, folks, you got to understand, it's July the 29th. This is not August the 29th. If this was August the 29th, I would be like, okay, it's going to happen. That's what late August is for. But instead, we are talking about what? A major hurricane, maybe a Category 4 in late June. Wow. I mean, that is remarkable. That is absolutely remarkable. So now when we take a look at the earliest reasonable time. So now this is where we get to the meat of the discussion. So again, everyone, please invite your friends, invite your family, invite your relatives to the stream. right now, because we're going to go into a lot of detail on who and where and when those impacts will be on each island. And we're going to diagnose those high resolution hurricane models for you so you are absolutely prepped for what's to come. So when we take a look at the arrival time of tropical storm force winds, there is a 100% chance just to the south of Barbados, a little tiny island right there. And then you got St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, right around a 90 to 100% chance of tropical storm force winds. That is very likely. And yes, look at Jamaica. We have a 60 to almost 80% chance in Jamaica to have tropical storm force winds. Probably in the next day or two, there probably will be tropical storm watches or warnings out for this island. And then the Cayman Islands, you have a 40 to almost 50% chance of tropical storm force winds. And again, those tropical storm force winds, the timing of those could arrive as early as Sunday night over Barbados, possibly as early as Monday morning over the rest of the island chain, over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including Martinique, if you're in Dominica, if you're on Guadeloupe, if you're on Grenada, that is, and if you're on St. Lucia, that's going to be Monday morning. And then possibly, if those tropical storm force winds get far enough to the north, potentially depending on the track here, which we will look at, possibly by Monday night, and then eventually by Wednesday. Unfortunately, this is going to come at no worse time than, say, before the 4th of July. Yes, 4th of July is on Thursday, and a lot of people, instead of, well, celebrating 4th of July fireworks, you're probably going to have to celebrate possibly evacuating ahead of what could be another tropical storm or hurricane headed towards the Leeward Islands and maybe the windwards. Grenada, so it is Grenada. All right, because I did watch Tropical Tidbits earlier and he said Grenada, so maybe each person says it differently. So it is Grenada. So I did get it the first time. I was experimenting on the pronunciation on that. So it is Grenada, not Grenada. Makes sense. All right, so yeah, 4th of July this year is going to be very unfortunate for our friends living on the Windward Islands. Instead, again, of getting ready for the 4th of July fireworks, you're going to have to get ready for another wave to pass over. So here's a look at the key messages for Hurricane Beryl. Once again, Beryl is expected to be a dangerous, and I don't say this very often, and I'm not saying this to freak you all out. This could be a catastrophic event to some of the islands. So Beryl is expected to be a dangerous to potentially a catastrophic major hurricane when it reaches the Windward Islands late Sunday night or Monday morning. Destructive hurricane force winds and life-threatening storm surge. Yeah, life-threatening storm surge here is certainly a very likelihood. Hurricane watches and warnings are now in effect for much of the Windward Islands. Number 2, hurricane or heavy rainfall and localized flooding is expected across the Windward Islands Sunday night into Monday. So it's not just the storm surge flooding, but you're also going to see freshwater flooding from this as well. All right. And this is not good. Interests in the central and western Caribbean should monitor the progress of this system. Users are reminded that there is large uncertainty at days 4 and 5 and to not focus on the specifics of the details and intensity and track of the forecast. And we've got some help tonight from our ensembles that will better diagnose that for you all. So now, and again, we'll look at those ensembles. So right now there is a hurricane warning. Okay, this is no longer a watch, by the way. So there is a hurricane warning out now for Barbados, for Grenada, as well as St. Vincent and the Grenadines are now under a hurricane warning. You need to be getting prepared for life-threatening, catastrophic, significant, dangerous storm surge, heavy rainfall that will lead to some flooding and damaging winds from this hurricane. And just take note here, these points, the center of points here of the timeline, M stands for major hurricane. So this is a major hurricane well into the Caribbean. So this is a system that looks to survive this. And look at even now a hurricane potentially, even when it gets into the northwestern Caribbean, because if the system here is strong enough, this could end up, fighting off any shear that is otherwise in the forecast over the central and western Caribbean. And just take note that this passes just to the south of Jamaica on the NHC forecast, but we just looked at how that is still a possibility that this could still impact, say, areas over central and southern Jamaica, and then even for portions of the Cayman Islands. And we can follow the points of origin here where exactly this is going to be moving through. And right now, it's going to be getting awfully close, uncomfortably close to Jamaica by the day 4 time frame, and then day 5 is out there in the northwestern Caribbean. Now, another product that we have to really talk about is how much rainfall is expected. Just remember how fast this system is moving. This is not a slow-moving system at all. This is moving at a pretty good clip. And to see that some of the islands here, Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, as well as, say, St. Lucia, could see as much as 8 inches of rainfall is really alarming. If this was to move through at a much slower pace, this hurricane, the amount of water that it has with it, could pack a huge punch, potentially exceeding a foot of rainfall in some areas. So you might think nicely about Beryl moving really quickly, and this is a pretty compact system, but at the end of the day, there's going to still be immense impacts from freshwater flooding due to heavy rainfall and strong winds. By the way, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, and St. Lucia here could have up to 4 inches, maybe even 5 inches in some of the highest mountain tops where we have the strongest orographic effects. So keep that in mind. And even Trinidad and Tobago, no, you're not going to get a whole lot of hurricane force winds because of where the center is, but yes, you're also going to get a lot of rainfall, and yes, you might get 4 to 5 inches. So don't think you're not going to get impacted at all by Beryl. Just because you don't have tropical storm force winds, they might get close here to Trinidad and Tobago, but it's going to be also the rainfall that you're going to see with this. So yes, you will still get impacts from Beryl, just not as significantly as Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines here, including Grenada, as well as, say, St. Lucia, where you're in ground zero for significant impacts. So, yeah, I wanted to show you all that this is a very compact system. I mean, it's hard to believe. Tropical storm force winds only extend about 50 miles out from the center. Hurricane force winds just 15 miles out from the center. So this is a pretty compact system. And of course, when the system intensifies, the wind field will expand a little bit more. And that is why, again, these islands are under a hurricane warning. A hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are expected within the next day or two. And if you have to evacuate, that should be done by tomorrow morning. Because tomorrow's Sunday. So it should be done by tomorrow morning because this system is moving at a quick pace. So I wanted to tell you all, before we get to the models, actually we will save this for a little later because I want to continue showing you all the ensembles. Then we'll look at our HMON and the rest of the hurricane models. All right, so this is the super blend. All right, I want you all to acknowledge that in the chat by saying super blend. This is a blend of the Ensemble prediction system, the GEFS ensemble, the UK Met ensemble, the Canadian ensemble. And this is showing different outcomes, okay? So you tweak the atmosphere just a little bit. Maybe the ridges tweaked a little weaker or a little stronger over the southeast. And that really influences on, yes, I'll show Jamaica here when we get to the super blend. We'll forward that in and we'll show you on the hurricane models. So this is the super blend, okay? And this just came out. I don't think we have our 0Z output yet, but we can see, actually no, because this is only 12-hour increments. So the 0Z will come out later on tonight. So we can see the ellipse here. So of course, there's high confidence now that it's going to impact the southern windward islands by tomorrow night into Monday. And then once this gets, once we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, there is still decent spread of the ensembles, okay? And that's, again, the spaghetti plot that we have here. The ensemble ellipse, which it shows at least a 20% chance of a possible outcome here, maybe a tropical storm or hurricane, well, more than likely a hurricane at this point. Users are not to only focus on the NHC. Yes, they are very accurate with their track forecast, but that the cone of uncertainty, let's go back to that, is there for a reason, because when we do take a look at our super blend, there's a lot of possible outcomes here. This system could in fact still hit, say, Honduras, perhaps even down there in Central America, versus some of the other ensemble members indicate that this could make a turn or gain latitude a little faster and could still spar or hit the Haitian Peninsula of Haiti in the Hispaniola area, including southern Cuba. So yeah, just because one model shows this does not mean you're not going to see anything. There is still a lot of uncertainty here, especially beyond 3 days or so. I emphasize that. And even 4 days out, the NHC explicitly showed it in their discussion. There's a lot of uncertainty here. And I mean, this is 5 days. This is 6 days, and this is 7 days. 7 days out, folks. We have some members up here, and we have some members all the way down here. That's a big ellipse of uncertainties in the model guidance, because maybe this ridge is a little too strong to the north, and this will likely, if the ridge is sampled stronger, then this bends back to the west a little bit more, versus if the ridge builds, excuse me, I almost burped there, over the southwestern Atlantic, then this might be able to bend a little bit more northward and maybe get into the Gulf of Mexico. But that's for another couple of days, maybe another 3 or 4 days away to discuss on what that's gonna, what indeed will happen with this. But the end of discussion here is that when we take a look at our deterministic, which are the colors too, we got to understand the GFS is still on the northern end of this, still over Jamaica with its deterministic output, versus the UK Met is still further south. So even here on the deterministic forecast, there is still reasonable uncertainty. And I don't blame these models. They are not perfect. And if one variable is not correct, well, it's going to mess up the rest of the ensemble. That's why we have ensembles and not just one member or one model like the GFS. This is your deterministic forecast, and this is the ensemble. So think about, you're on stage, you're doing a play, right? You're one out of, well, maybe 50 other people that are doing the same performance, right? So that's kind of what, and maybe you're off by 1 millisecond, right? And that, that affects, if I'm off by 1 millisecond of my kick or my tap on the floor, like a tap dance, you can definitely get a little bit of an idea. Well, you tweaked yourself a little bit to tap a little later on the stage. I hope that was a good analogy. So here's a spaghetti plot. Now this is the hurricane-specific models. These are, well, actually a couple of global models. The NHC, by the way, is over here on that black line. And when we look at the HMON, so a system that's not as strong will tend to be more south, versus what we have here. It's very hard to see this with the HWRF and the halves. Yeah, the HWRF is strongest, and it's going to gain latitude a little more sooner. So that's basically what that shows. Now, how much stronger will Beryl get? That's the big question here when we look at our intensity forecast on Beryl. Well, some of the models are still in that range of category 4 intensity, and you name it. We got the halves A, we got the HMON, and the HWRF. Do we have any other models very close to NHC is really close to that. If that's in knots, is this in knots? Yeah, this is in knots. So that's 110 knots. So this this just updated, so this is pretty new. All right, so above the ship's model, and it is still possible that this could, again, get even higher than that. Possibly my ceiling on this is about 130 miles an hour, or about 115 knots or so is where I'm going with this at the peak of intensity, just because of how this has done so far. And pressure's down at 986 millibars. For reference, if we go back, that's 988 millibars. So the pressure is a little deeper from the NHC, and it's even deeper, I believe. Yeah, it's a lot deeper than on the H-Wharf. So in other words, Beryl is outperforming most of the forecasts right now. And if that's not enough, we go to the GFS model. The GFS, 989 millibars. So, I mean, this is really outperforming a lot of forecasts at the moment. And that is no surprise given really how deep. Look at this. This is very deep convection right now. Absolutely insane right now. That is popping off on the system, and that's what we're watching for. So now to all of you that are wondering, now I showed this, oops, not that. Let's go to the H-Wharf and Beryl. Okay, so make sure you invite your friends and family, because I'm going to do my very own forecast on where I think this is going to hit, all right, and when it's going to hit. Oh man, it's warm in here in the office. By the way, next week in my home office where I'm at right now, probably 100, outside it at least, could be 115 degrees. Yeah, on Wednesday. 115 on Wednesday. My upstairs room could hit 100 degrees. But I'll do everything that I can to update you all as often as I can. So, this is the H-Wharf model. Okay, I've said this many times. You're probably saying, David, come on now. Stop saying wharf model, right? Think about Fisherman's Wharf, then you'll understand. Yeah, you guys are probably looking at me, and I'm pretty shiny. My head's shiny, and that's because it's hot. I'm going to turn on my air conditioner. Hopefully, you all don't hear it in the background, so I can actually cool off a little bit. Yes, my air is just turning on. So, and hopefully, it's not blowing onto the mic. So we can see hurricane force winds in purple. That is 64 knots or greater. And then look up the plot up here. Top right side of the screen. That is about 100 knots of wind. That's 39 hours out. And that's right up in there with the NHC forecast. And this passes to the south of Barbados. Now, just because you see this, oh, why are we in a hurricane warning then? There's a reasoning for that, because there's still that uncertainty. Exactly how close this gets to Barbados still remains uncertain. And yeah, if this goes 10 or 15 miles north, it's game over for Barbados. Let's just put it that way. It's a game changer, all right, if this goes 20 miles north. Versus if it's where it is now, you only get hit with tropical storm force winds. And this specifically, this is about 2 or 3 in the morning. Actually, this is about 4 or 5 in the morning. Okay. Actually, wait. Yeah, about 4 or 5 in the morning on Monday, July 1st. And then it gets onto, this is St. Lucia, I believe. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that is. That's these islands. 957, 116 knot of winds. So that is very strong. All right. And again, this is 15Z Monday. So let's see. Let me do the math. So it's about 12 o'clock. Maybe 11 in the morning on Monday, July the 1st, maybe 12 o'clock, maybe 1 o'clock on Monday. But it seems like Monday now, late morning, early afternoon, you could get devastation. Hurricane force winds even over Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Grenada, tropical storm force winds here, even on land. And then this departs those islands by Monday night. And the good thing is, excuse me here, southeasterly winds, and the winds do back off dramatically. But then everyone was wondering about Jamaica. So this gets really close. Tropical storm force winds possibly on the southern Haitian peninsula of the Dominican Republic here by Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then perhaps by Wednesday morning, July the 3rd, we have tropical storm force winds arriving on Jamaica. And there's a huge population here. Let me see how many people live on Jamaica. Jamaica population. So right now, 2.8 million. That's a huge population. That's about the size of Los Angeles in population. Actually, no, the size of San Jose in California. Maybe 2 San Jose's worth of population. And this is Jamaica, so almost 3 million on this island. Hard to believe. It's a very compact island with a lot of population. And yeah, tropical storm force winds, possibly even along the coast here, you could get clipped with hurricane force winds. The good thing is this is a solid mountain range, so there is a barrier effect here where the winds actually are not tropical storm force winds, probably even barely tropical storm force, even on the eastern side of the island by Wednesday night. Of course, early on they're tropical storm force, but there is some good and bad news about Jamaica. It's if it's offshore like this, you get more of a barrier effect, so it blocks the wind a little bit, which is nice of these tall mountains. But the taller mountains, though, the peaks, could get sustained winds of at least 115, 120 miles an hour. And then Cayman Islands right here, look at this. This is for Thursday morning, 4th of July. May not be so 4th of July-ick on that day. And then this goes only out to 5 days. Remember, we got to understand the H-Wharf only goes out to a little over 5 days out. We have another model that we want to look at. This is the H-Mon. All right, H-Mon for reference. All right, and so right now, this is current. Wait, hold on. Yeah, this is current. Remember that pressure is lower, 986 millibars. It is lower than all the models right now. So we could assume this is about 75 to 80 knots right now. And as we go forward in time, let's see. Wow, this is much further south of Barbados. Very incredible to see that. 12Z Monday, July the 1st. Man, it's moving faster here. And yeah, barely any tropical storm force winds over Barbados. And in this case, yeah, this is Tobago right here, the little island of Tobago. Tropical storm force winds coming in actually out of the westerly direction. So yes, I did talk about that. You may get tropical storm force winds, and that seems to realize here on this model. And then the southern end, down there towards where Grenada is, right here, you could get a lot of high winds too, hurricane force winds as this glides past. And then of course, going forward, this gets to the south. Actually, on this model, barely tropical storm force winds. Just goes to show you H-Mon versus the H-Wharf. Look at that difference. I mean, hurricane conditions on Jamaica, potentially on the H-Wharf. The H-Mon, look at that. Virtually, you can see pretty far south. Okay. And then, towards the end of this run, you can see it turning towards Central America. And that is a major hurricane still. So, yeah, there's a ceiling on this, of it being quite intense. Let's look at the Havze really quick. So the Havze, strange enough, right with the H-Mon, near Grenada with hurricane force winds. I mean, 972 millibars. I don't know if that's going to exist at all because, you know, it's already 986 millibars. So, I mean, it's going to get a lot stronger than what I think this is showing. So let's go to the Havze, the last hurricane model on the list. Did this just get done rendering? Man, that actually reflects the current intensity. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 986 millibars. This is what we are seeing. This just came out. The Havze actually look how intense this could actually get. Really, that window from Sunday afternoon, it could really explosively intensify. And actually, it will at this point. Look at this. This is a Category 5 hurricane. All right, Category 5. I don't want to over speculate that, but if you do the conversion up here, look at the intensity. 135.0 knots. Let's do that. Let's see. Go to knots to miles per hour. I can show you some truth. That's what that actually means. Go to that conversion. Let's go to 135 knots. That's cusping a Category 5 hurricane. More of a high-end Category 4. The highest end you can get before it becomes a Cat 5. That is a 953. Now, the pressure does not equate to that, so more than likely probably a low-end Category 4, more likely 130, 135 mile-an-hour winds. But look at how intense that is. That gets over the islands, and then you can see it really struggles. And on this model, it's barely a hurricane. But look at the last run. So there's Jamaica. And there is Jamaica now. Look at it went further south. So all the models went to the south on this. But look at what it shows. It might try to re-strengthen a little bit towards the end of the model. So, yeah, there's a high ceiling on this. But especially until it gets over these islands, this is going to rapidly intensify. That's what most of the guidance indicates in today's or tonight's package. So let's take a look at now the rainfall. So you guys get to choose. Which model do you want me to use for the precipitation forecast? Do you want me to use the H-WRF, the H-MON, the halves A, or the halves B run? Let me know in chat. You guys get to choose. I want you guys to kind of interact, because I feel like I've just been talking and ignoring you all the whole time. So I think it's a good idea, since this is kind of impacting your area. It's a good idea that I use what you want me to use. Okay, halves B. You may want to loom at IR really quick. Oh my gosh. We have an eye. We literally have an eye right now on the floater satellite imagery. That is really concerning. Well, that's not surprising given the IR that did show a closed eyewall. Not IR, but the satellite, the microwave pass, that is. Okay, so we'll get back to that. I know a lot of you are just like staring, gluing to the IR satellite imagery, but we're going to glue ourselves to the halves B. Everyone wants me to use a halves B, so let's go to that. And you can see, yeah, there is your eye right there. Look at that intense eye wall there. You get rain bands. Again, for reference, there is Barbados. You may not get hurricane force winds, but you are certainly going to get a lot of heavy rainfall and some flood impacts. And then, of course, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada down here, St. Lucia, wow, lots of rainfall and some significant impacts. And you can see how intense that eye is. And when we look back at this, look at how what that eye looks like. Excuse me. So really, really intense eye. On the halves B, when we look at the H-WRF really quick, you can see with what it actually looks like too. Very intense. Now, by the way, this is when the shear really increases. You can see how asymmetrical that actually gets. But until it gets there, it's going to be a very intense hurricane. Very symmetrical in all sense. Hurricane Matthew type I. That's what the forecast calls for. So, yes, lots of rainfall as far as that goes. And on the GFS model, we have up to 6 inches of rain. Now, I am not going to talk much about our second wave. Now, that one looks pretty intense as well. 975, 981 millibars-ish. That's another system that we're really going to have to watch. That looks to be another tropical storm or hurricane in the next 4 days. Man, this is going to barely pass Jamaica on Wednesday. And yet, we have a second system we may have to watch closely for. And then that one might actually take a whole different scenario. And, man, I'm seeing this for the first time. Wow, if that gets into the Gulf, that could be another no bueno, potentially. I'm just seeing this, actually, on the GFS. Wow, that is very significant. Beryl hitting southern Texas, and we may have our C-name storm hitting that area. What to expect in Trinidad? So if we go back and look at Trinidad on our hurricane model on the H-Wharf, I think the H-Wharf has it, well, let's see. Let's go to the TAFB. TAFB is very similar with its kind of structure. So Trinidad is down here. So down here on the circle. I hope you all can see that just fine. So there's Trinidad, and that's where you're going to get a lot of the heavy rain from. Mainly coming in out of the westerly direction before the rain bands, if any develop, come out of the southwest. But very far out for that system on the GFS, though. But look how intense that gets, so 965 maybe. We'll see, that's very far out, though. There's a lot of uncertainty on how that's going to all evolve. The next named storm, some of you are probably wondering, will be Chris. So it'd be Chris would be this system back in, oh, you guys can't see it, will be this system right here, which has a 70% chance of tropical formation. Actually, it will be a tug-of-war between this system. We might have Chris, and then let's see what we might have after that. It could be on the fringes. Oh my gosh, I lost it. I lost my, okay, here it is. So we could have Debbie before this is all said and done. So this could form first into a tropical storm briefly, maybe a depression at the very strongest. If it gets named, it would be Chris, and then we might have Debbie out here. We'll see which one gets named first. I mean, Debbie, we're on our letter D named storm in early July. 4 named storms already, folks. And it's only late June, early July-ish. So we can see why the hurricane season is predicted to be potentially hyperactive. All right, any questions, anybody? I want to get to your guys' questions. We're going to have this a little longer tonight, probably an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 15, 20 minutes. It depends on how many questions we get. So please ask your question in the chat. And because of that, am I able to enable slow mode? Let me see if I'm able to enable that. I'm going to put it for 15 seconds, so that way I can get to your guys' questions. All right? Don't worry, it's only 15 seconds. That's not very long at all, I promise you. All right, so that way I can get to people's questions without spamming those questions rapidly. All right, because I want to get to as many questions as I can tonight. Okay, Mary N asks, how strong, let me get to the satellite imagery because you all are probably going to wonder about that. How strong can it be if it hits Quatanaru? So that's in the Central America-ish area. Probably right now flirting between a tropical depression to a low-grade hurricane. And the intensity is very dependent on, is going to be very much dependent on how Beryl survives or is able to fend off or kind of deflect that shear away from the system. How is La Nina affecting hurricane season this year? Well, Monica, I can tell you right now, there's not a lot of activity in the Eastern Pacific. It's pretty dead. Probably the quietest East Pacific hurricane season on record. What are the chances of it turning and hitting Barbados? There is a slim chance that it does hit Barbados directly. That's why there's a hurricane warning in effect right now. So, yes, do not cancel any preparations. Thank you, Chase, for the $2 donation. So, is it going to hit Texas at a Category 2? Very highly uncertain. I should have not even showed that to you all. I'm very uncertain about that right now. Should the Gulf states get prepared? No, not right now. David, could this be the earliest Category 5 hurricane in recorded history? Potentially, if it does become a Category 5 in the next 3 or 4 days, it could be. Do you think we can get a Category 5? Check the H-warp, 850 millibar height and wind. Okay, so let's get to that. H-warp, you said? Let's go to 850 millibar. So it is close. Again, we'll see what recon data finds at that point when they fly into the system. But I would say probably not. Even so, that is a Category 5. You got to kind of do the equation, what that would lead to the surface. They're going to, adjust those numbers. Will this be another Hurricane Laura? Dane said. Let's not say that right now. We're not making any speculation. If it hits Texas at a Cat 5, then it's almost like a Laura, but I don't think that's going to happen yet. And even Justin G even iterates on what I just said. Which, by the way, Justin, do you have time to chat to help answer these questions? I'm getting a lot of questions right now. I'm just getting so many. Which, by the way, if you guys want to check out my Twitter page, I do updates on Twitter. I've been so busy today that I've not been able to. But you can follow me on Twitter at WeatherUnited1 is my handle. Again, WeatherUnited1 is the handle to my Twitter page. You could also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want. Hit the like button. Ring the bell icon for latest updates too. Oh, you can talk for a few minutes? Hooray! Hurricane expert Justin. All right, Justin, if you can give me a call, then we can get to those questions. Yes, David's live. Thank you, Caden. Yes, I'm going to try to be live as much as I can. Definitely tomorrow. Hey, Justin, how's everything?
It is good. How are you?
Good. So we have a quickly intensifying Hurricane Beryl right now.
I do see that.
And wait, and I'm going to ask you this question, Justin, and then we'll get to the questions here. Is it June 29th or is it August 29th?
It seems to be August 29th season, but it is June 20th.
Oh my gosh, every time.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, sorry about that. My audio keeps on cutting out. I hope it's not my sound card going out on me. Every time it just blips out, so sorry about that. Also, by the way, if you look at latest IR satellite, wow, that eyewall. That eyewall is intense.
It is, yeah. That eye's starting to clear out. I will say it's a little bit asymmetrical right now. Mainly in that bottom left quadrant. But that for the next 2 or so days. So I would expect some pretty insane intensification.
Oh my gosh. Hold on.
Next 48 hours before some shear begins to influence it. What'd you say?
Answer questions, Justin, because I'm having computer problems right now.
Sure. The chances of it hitting Texas, yeah, so that is a possibility in the really long term. You'll probably see some influence from it, whether that just be some increases in storms or some like higher surf. Right now, like a direct landfall in Texas is pretty unlikely, but it is extremely far out, so we can't give you a definitive answer of if it's going to hit Texas or not. It's possible. It likely won't be too strong by the time it gets there, but it is many days out from even getting close to the United States, so we cannot really give you that answer yet.
All right, so okay, Aiden asks, what about a 175-mile-an-hour hurricane? That's a very, very crazy answer.
Yeah, the Cat 3 to 4 out of this. Ships does show, I'm pretty sure, a 26% chance of a Category 5, which is extreme.
Hey, Justin. Hey, Justin. And my sound card went out. My sound card blew up, folks. That is not good.
See.
All right. Justin, you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you people on stream hear me? I'm not sure. I can't hear myself on stream.
I'm going to have to take my computer in to get it checked because every time someone joins, the audio just blips out. It goes,
I can hear myself now. Okay,
okay.
cool. Into perspective, this is in the unseen category of rare, right? Like we see rare as in like a couple of hurricanes that get into the high 70 miles per hour. See very often. This, even though it's only a Category 1 hurricane right now, for late June standards, this is unseen. We have never seen a hurricane this far east in the Atlantic in June. It's incredible, to say the absolute least.
Here's a satellite imagery on it showing us this. All right.
Oh,
All right. Hey, Justin, I'm going to call you on my iPad because it's acting up.
okay, I can hear myself fine.
It keeps on blipping out though. It keeps on blipping out. This is not acceptable of what my computer is doing. Um
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna have to take the computer in and get it checked out. Probably
Yeah,
tomorrow,
I mean, I'm listening to your stream. I hear myself perfectly
but
fine.
once in a while it blips out. Once in a while it blips out.
Okay, cool. Your stream.
All right, can you hear now?
I can hear you, yes. I've been able to hear myself.
All right, it should work now because it's using the mic.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a look at the IR satellite imagery, folks. Definitely a very intense eyewall, really developing. Wow. Even some lightning on that too.
Yeah, and lightning in the eyewall, for those of you who are not familiar, is a hallmark of a rapidly intensifying system. So we definitely are seeing that right now. I've been tracking the tropics for several years now. David's been doing it for even longer than I have. And I think we can both say that we've never seen this at this time of year. So it's a very rare thing. Like I said, we are in the unseen category of rare.
And you heard it from someone that, again, has tracked this, not as long as me, but still pretty, in such a way, somewhat long. And this is what we're seeing right now. So, Category 3, 125, possibly a Category 4 when this gets over the islands, Justin. I mean, Category 4? Wow.
In June, crazy. Or July, whatever it will be, whether it's late June, early July, crazy.
Absolutely crazy. All right, so while we're tracking this, more questions continue. Questions are open up for business for another 15, 20 minutes. So someone in the chat, Justin, K-pop lover says, we have a PDS tropical emergency.
Sounds fun. I don't think that's a thing, but in this world, anything can be real.
Maybe you could talk to the National Hurricane Center, K-pop lover, to see if they could actually add that.
Yeah, K-pop lover, you do that.
We'll see what they actually do, but this is what the hurricane warning probably covers it enough. Man, look at that eye. This is insane. Very strong eye taking place. Let's go to the windy.com because that shows us satellite as well.
Yeah, just real quick, for all of the people asking if it's going to reach Category 5, it is, let's just make this clear right now so we can stop with that question because we've answered it a few times by now. It's in the realm of possibility that this thing gets to Category 5 in the next 48 hours. Is it likely? Definitely not. Is it possible? Sure. It's not going to make much of a difference whether it's a Category 4 or Category 5. It's possible. It's not likely. We'll see.
But cloud tops, Justin, and everyone that's watching, negative 115 degrees Fahrenheit. That is
insane.
That's insane. Man, look at how clear that eye is, man. That is a clear looking eye.
Yeah, I honestly think 85 is kind of low right now. I think it's probably closer to 100, if not like maybe even nearing 105 by now. Recon will be the only way to tell. That's going to be tomorrow morning's assignment, but yeah, I think 85 is probably a little bit of a conservative estimate for right now.
All right, Cactus C says, let's just put it out there. Category 4 or 5 are a possibility. Doesn't mean it will reach that intensity, but it just means it has a chance to.
That sounds accurate.
All right, someone said eye is visible on the water vapor.
That is also accurate.
Wow. Gosh. I mean, Justin, we were talking about an invest yesterday morning. Literally 36 hours later, we're talking maybe a low-end Category 2 hurricane.
Yeah. If you told me this was late August, early September, I would 100% believe you. And I would still be impressed, by the way.
Which means, Justin, the upper ocean heat content, and if you followed my tropical weather videos, the upper ocean heat content in the Caribbean, I want to make it clear with you, across the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, that area, the Central Caribbean, upper ocean heat content is as high as it has ever been and closely resembles that of mid-September. Upper ocean heat content.
Yeah, just to answer a question, and then I'll get back to that, David. Orlando Star 97, how strong does a tropical storm have to be for it to curve northwest? With strength, storms tend to move to the north and east in the Atlantic. We saw that last year. A lot of the stronger storms tended to curve out to sea. However, strength really isn't going to be a big indicator of where this thing is going to go. Strength can make it curve a little bit more than if it didn't have that kind of strength, but the main things are going to be like the placement of the ridge or the intensity of the ridge. And in this case, that's going to keep it in the Caribbean. And then in the long term, either in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Bay of Campeche. So strength really shouldn't be too much of a factor in where this thing goes. More so, some of the actual environmental conditions should be.
And Justin, since he's listening to my live stream on this, so the ridge in the southeast is what really is going to help steer this. So right now, if we go back to our current analysis, we have a large-scale ridge pattern that is pretty much to the north of this system, and that's why the system in the first place is doing more of a west-northwest move, even westerly at times, and then there's a weakness in the ridge, and that's why it might curve up. It may make a little bit of a right curve turn once it passes the islands, but with another ridge developing over the deep south and the southeast, that hurricane is expected or potentially might curve back to the west over the northwestern Caribbean at about day 5. And there's a lot of models spread, folks. I cannot stress enough. And even Justin, you probably are better at explaining this a little bit. There's a lot of uncertainty at days 4 and 5.
For sure, yeah. Once this thing passes through the Caribbean, it's really uncertain where this will go. It'll be much weaker than its peak intensity. Its peak intensity will probably be Category 3, Category 4. Once it passes probably the Yucatan and Cuba and enters either the Gulf of Mexico or the Bay of Campeche, it could re-strengthen a little bit, but that's super long term. It's going to be really dependent on the strength and the placement of that ridge. And if there's anywhere where this thing can curve a little bit to the east. But I mean, it's not going to be I would think, a huge deal at that point. It'll probably be like a mid-grade tropical storm at most once it enters the Gulf of Mexico. But it is very long-term, and it's important to note that because this thing could be stronger or even weaker than anticipated at that point. Hurricanes tend to be very unpredictable in long range because the slightest increase in shear, the slightest increase in dry air, especially with really tight cores like this thing has, can make a huge difference.
Exactly, and you said that very well, Justin. Okay, we have now cloud tops, Justin, approaching negative 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Crazy.
So Alex Curry says, will this have any serious effect on Trinidad?
I think you can answer that better. You have all of the maps open.
All right. So as far as that goes, right now, folks, what I'm seeing is there will be some impacts according to the eyewall. Well, actually, let's just use a half speed run. I always click on 94L. I don't know why. Okay. So Trinidad and Tobago, especially down here, there is some chances that there will be some outer bands. Some of those could contain water spouts, some heavy downpours that could lead to some minor flood problems. And of course, some of the stronger winds that come with this. All right, so that's the thing that we're concerned about. But the biggest impacts will again be over Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, the Tobago, Barbados. There we go. Barbados, St. Lucia. That northern quadrant seems to get the biggest impacts, and it's because the storm is moving towards the west-northwest. So if you think about it, most of the wind energy, most of the rain amounts are going to be to the north of the system than to the south. Not that the south won't see a lot of big impacts, but you understand what I mean by that is that usually the winds on this side of the system tend to be stronger because the system is moving pretty quickly at about 20 miles an hour. Well, let's actually make sure if I'm correct on that. 20, 19, 18 doesn't matter, and it's moving at 20 miles an hour. Hey, I got that right on the first try without second guessing. Caleb Z Weather Foundation says, and also I think it's going to be about 120 to 135. Pretty good guess, or a pretty good estimate forecast. Okay, Shawnee is already asking, what about Houston, Texas? Again, I know a lot of you are probably data forecast hungry on that. I wish, folks, I can predict a hurricane 10 days out. But there's a lot of what ifs that come into hand, okay? Weather is a complicated weather variable. Things in the short term affect things in the long term, okay? The butterfly effect. Think about if you tweak something a little bit in the atmosphere, how that's going to oppose, right? So if we just trusted the 18Z run, then we could say southern Texas could get a major hurricane. All right, potentially. But that's one model run. What about the last run, 12Z run? What about the run before that? What about, just only recently, this has now appeared in the 18Z run. So there is a lot of uncertainty, okay? There's just so much of that to go on right now.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I'm also seeing a lot of people mention the icon in the chat. And what David said just now basically sums that up perfectly, is that we now see, and I just looked at the icon for all of you telling us to look. And yes, it shows quite the concerning scenario for southern Texas. But then I look at the run right before that, the 12Z run, and it's 500 miles further south and way weaker. So it really makes you question what is going to happen in the long term. And we can't make an accurate, safe, reasonable, and responsible prediction this far out because so much is going to change, not only in terms of where this thing goes, but how strong it's going to be. So one run of the icon, one run of the GFS, one run of the Euro is going to show one thing, and the next one's going to show a completely different thing. So if we're going to take the highest scenario of each model, yeah, it's going to look grim, but we have to take the average, and when you do that, it's not that big of a deal right now.
Yeah. Also, the Canadian does show something similar, all right? But again, let's give this another 3 or 4 days, all right? I don't want to be like, oh, David predicts a hurricane in Texas, and then people laugh at me or the weather community looks at us like, dude, what are you talking about? So that's why NHC, for one thing, goes 7 days out. I'm nice enough to even go about 7 days out, which is a risk in itself. I really shouldn't be going that far out. And Justin, remember the website that you shared with me last year? It's from Tomer Berg, PhD student.
Maybe, sure, yeah. I try not to remind me. I've shared a lot of things with a lot of people.
Okay, let me copy this image, and you'll recognize with what I am talking about. Okay, recognize that website?
Let's see. Yeah, I think so.
All right. I want to thank you for that because this is the super blend. And look at Justin, look at the super blend on this website. 7 days out, we have some members as far northeast as like the northeastern Gulf, even over Florida. And some of the members are even into the Eastern Pacific.
Right. Yeah. So let's see how far of a distance that is, guys. Just by miles here. So miles are spread about 1,500 miles. Let me repeat that. Models are spread 1,500 miles. That's the distance from like Maine to North Carolina, right? So we have so much difference here. Is it going to be Florida or is it going to be in the open Eastern Pacific? That's the thing we're trying to tell you, is that this thing, yes, it could be a significant hurricane making landfall in southern Texas, but that does not even appear remotely likely right now. We'll know a lot more in a couple days, and it's so important that you guys wait for that before judging this whole storm off of like 1 or 2 model runs.
Exactly. Exactly. I know you guys, and here's the thing. Boy, if I was in Texas, I would be like, ooh, okay, we gotta watch this one. I'm concerned. It's okay to be curious. It is okay to ask those questions because that makes you wonder. I'm curious too. Is it gonna have that right turn into the Gulf of Mexico? We'll see. We will have to see. Superblend
For
hasn't
sure.
updated. Yeah, it's from this morning, so the 0Z Super Blend won't be out until tonight. It's every 12 hours. All right, because it's got to wait for the European Ensemble, the GEFS Ensemble, the UK Met Ensemble, the Canadian Ensemble. It's the Super Blend. It's the Super Blend.
Yeah. And just FYI, guys, we're not telling you to ignore this thing. We're basically saying that keep an eye on it. Lots gonna change. It could hit you, or it could be 1,000 miles away from you. So, don't be anything more than watching right now, I would say.
Yeah. But I will tell you what, the only thing that we can say right now is this could get extremely close to Jamaica, very close to Jamaica, in the central northwestern-ish, western-ish Caribbean in the next 4 or 5 days. 3 or 4-ish days. All right. We know a little bit more better confidence on that. How close? That is to be announced. Okay. Will this hit Barbados? There's a pretty big possibility it does because there's tightly clustered models for that. We know a lot more information than we did 4 days ago on if this is going to hit Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, that sort of thing. I wish I wish I was a psychic at all of this, but it's good that I'm not a psychic, in such a way. Bro, that eye, oh my gosh. Yeah, that eye
Yeah,
is
it's
really
really strengthening right now. It's about to mention that.
and
Scott Patton, that's a really good question. What would wind shear be like in the Gulf if it were to get there? That's a good question. So I used FIPS to kind of look at that kind of thing. And what FIPS is showing is that there's probably going to be a slight increase of shear as it moves into the central Caribbean before a slight decrease in shear as it moves closer to the Yucatan. Once we get into the Gulf, it's plausible that there's going to be more shear. There just typically is more shear in that area during this time of year, climatologically. However, in the Bay of Campeche and further south in the Gulf, there could be an area where there isn't a lot of shear. So it's possible that this thing re-strengthens in the Gulf, but it's too far out to really be confident in saying that it will or won't.
all right. So another question. Oh, no, not a question. K-pop just kind of told us that it's rapidly intensifying, which, by the way, Justin, for you to listen into this too, is I told you guys, once that eyewall closes up, which we are seeing right now, Beryl has a better opportunity of rapidly intensifying even at a faster rate than it already is. So that's why I do think this could end up being a high-end Category 3 or even a low-end Category 4 hurricane once it passes over the islands of the windwards. So, yeah. Yeah, potential Category 4. Yes, absolutely. It is a it's at this time 125 miles an hour, high in Category 3. Category 4 on the table is now a higher possibility. So, yes. And if this is a Category 4 or even a high in Category 4, it might take a lot more wind shear to at least really disrupt the vortex a little bit.
Yeah. Where was the question that I wanted? Somebody asked about the potential peak intensity of this thing.
Oh yeah, that's I've been showing that, and people are like probably freaking out. Like, what does that all mean? And I'm looking at the ship's forecast. I'm looking at this image, Justin, which, by the way, you might want to take a look at that. There is a 42% chance for winds to increase 45 knots in the next 36 hours, and there is even a 26% chance
Of
Okay.
Category 5. Yes. Indeed. So yeah, what the ships is basically telling us is that this thing could get quite strong. The peak intensity, I would say the reasonable peak intensity of this, if I were to make a forecast right now, I would say the reasonable peak intensity is 130, 140. The most likely peak intensity is 120, 125, and the absolute upper end, if something crazy were to happen, is nearing Cat 5, but that's not particularly likely by any means right now.
All right. So, Will reasoned Superhawk. Any chance it turns north towards Florida? If you already answered this, I am sorry. I just joined in and saw this stream. Hit the like button and subscribe, everybody. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, well, if you really want to say, will it hit Florida, there's 2 or 3 members that have it hitting Florida. Members, not a deterministic forecast. So use caution when looking at this. Which, by the way, I'm going to be nice enough to you guys because I love you guys. I just enjoy talking to you guys and doing everything. Actually, wait, products. This is what we need. Go to this website. Okay, go to this website right now. I'm going to even pin it in the chat so you all can actually take a look at it. And then you could actually go to tropical cyclones. Okay, click on tropical cyclones and then click on Hurricane Beryl, and it will give you all of the information, all of the thumbnails that you need to know. And it gives you a storm history so we can see that, look at, I mean, let's see, yesterday at this time, it was only a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm. And now look at it, it's 85. So it's a Category 1 hurricane this early. And let's see cyclonic WX of what the ACE is, because that's going to really start. Have you ever been onto the cyclonic WX website, Justin?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're able to see the climatology, which, by the way, in the Atlantic, we're going to make up very quick with that. We're already in 31st place. We started at 50th place at the beginning. We're making up already 2 ace points, and the average is 3 ace points. So we are not far behind the average as we speak. And with this hurricane, with another one coming in, we're really going to add on to the ace points over the next couple of weeks.
Yes. If I could quickly just answer 2 questions. The first one, what does the system behind this one look like? It's a bit far out to know. However, I am more confident talking about that than I am Texas in a week.
Talk about that one, so that way my viewers.
Yeah, so the second one behind this, models are showing probably some strengthening into at least a tropical storm with that one. It's going to follow probably a similar track as Beryl. However, the ridge does weaken a bit once that thing enters the Caribbean, so it will probably curve more to the northeast if I were to guess. It's a bit far out for me to know that. However, it does have a high chance of development, and I would be beyond shocked if it doesn't develop. And then the second one that I wanted to get to is somebody who noted that it is very small. So yes, it is a very small hurricane right now. If you look at the National Hurricane Center wind field, it is extremely compact, but that is a good thing for the storm and a bad thing for the storm. Really small and compact cores can rapidly intensify much faster than really large cores. It makes sense. Those winds can funnel much easier. That convection can wrap up shear a lot easier. However, it's also a detriment to the storm because let's say there's a really small increase in shear or dry air. Small cores are not as strong. They can get destroyed much easier. I'm trying to find my wording here, but because they're small, they're much easier to be destroyed and to be impacted by just tiny increases in shear or dry air. And that's definitely a possibility, especially as it moves into the Caribbean. I will say it'll probably have an eyewall replacement cycle by that point, if not more than one, but it's a small core, it's rapidly intensifying, and it's off to the races for now. So yeah.
All eye walls wrapped around the eye. Yeah, it's a closed eye wall right now, Cactus C. All right, any more questions, anybody? I think that's an hour and a half stream. It's about 9 o'clock here. Any more last questions? I hope I answered them. If I didn't, I'm sorry. We have another stream tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what you're trying to say. JHW movies. David, he asks me, David, why you said there would be no name storm yet before this and got it wrong. So probably on Alberto. Oh man. I'm trying to. Well, it did not. It looked really broad. And that's one of the reasons why. And of course, I have a lot of followers, so I really have to be careful on how I forecast because I don't want to pre-name something and it not form, right? Really trying to be careful with that. Thanks for the information. Thank you, well-resined. I do appreciate that very much. Thanks for the $5 donation. So I have to be careful, and Justin agrees with me on that. I'm not really going to try to pre-name storms until I'm absolutely confident that this is going to form. And I pre-named this one Beryl because I thought, okay, there's a 100% chance that this is going to form. It's been in the models for a while. We see it coming. We see it happening. And that's why. Please keep up posted with the live streams. I will. I will have another live stream out. I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow afternoon, probably at around 2:30, probably about actually 2 o'clock. Actually, let me ask you guys this question. Hold on, Justin. I put you away from the mic really quick. Let's engage with the audience. Let's start with a poll. What time should I live stream? All right. Since we have like 700 people watching, this would be perfect. So we'll do 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll do 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then we will do another one 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then we'll do another one 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And then can we do another? Okay, that's all. So those are your choices right there. So vote if you haven't already. You guys decide for me instead of me deciding for you. Jeez, okay, we are already up to 30 votes. Please vote, folks. You guys are the deciders. You guys are the brains of the channel. Again, Pacific Daylight Time stands for PDT, Pacific Daylight Time. So you're going to want to add 3 or 4 hours depending on the time zone that you're in. Central Daylight Time is 2 hours ahead of me. Eastern Daylight Time is 3 hours ahead of me. Mountain Daylight Time is an hour ahead of me. Is Jamaica going to get hit? Like I said, like we talked about, there is a non-zero chance that Jamaica does get hit with this. The H-Wharf is as close to Jamaica as it can get with the rest of the models. All right, what determines the ace points? That's a good question, Orlando Star 97. So what determines that is the duration of the hurricane or the tropical storm. How long has it been that intense for, and how long has it tracked across the waters for? So it's duration, distance, intensity. All right. So that's basically what it is. That determines the ace points. ACE is another way of saying quality over quantity. So you could have 10 named storms, but have 10 Category 5 hurricanes that are long tracked. You're going to get a very high ACE score versus if you get 5 named storms and they're all tropical storms and short-lived. Avis says, will Jamaica experience hurricane force winds? Justin, what are your thoughts? I would say there's a possibility.
I would agree. I don't know if it's pretty. I would say it's unlikely hurricane force. They'll probably experience tropical storm force, though.
That's more unlikely than hurricane force. You're very welcome, Orlando.
Somebody wanted to know what you thought the intensity of this thing was right now.
Oh, so
Just to get their question.
So based on my satellite data that I'm seeing, the IR showing a bit of an eye in it with some deep convection. I would say it's at least, so they don't go 95 miles an hour in an advisory. So if anything, it would be at least 100 miles an hour. I would say either 90 miles an hour or 100, because they don't go 95 on an advisory.
I would agree with that. I would say it's probably the over 90, though. What NHC will do, who knows? But I would say it's probably at least 100 right now.
Yeah, probably about that. What do you think about the pressure? It's about 980 millibars right now. Actually, no, probably about 975. Well, let's actually do an estimate here based on, well, excuse me. Man. Let's go to the halves B run. So right now, this is now. So I would say it's about 970, 975. What do you mean they don't do 95 miles an hour? Justin, can you clear the confusion up with that? Justin, you there? All right, I guess he had to step away really quick. If you guys haven't voted yet, please vote. Please vote. We're up to 90 votes already. Vote on what time should I live stream tomorrow. What time should I live stream tomorrow? I can't do the morning. I could only do the afternoon because I have church in the morning. Yes, it's Sunday. Justin Wilson, they're not going to do a complete advisory. What I mean is they might up it in the intermediate advisory, but they're going to mainly do that in the complete advisory. So I would say it's going to be at least 90 or maybe 100 miles an hour. If you go down here to their discussion, not their really, yeah, kind of their information, the next complete advisory is at 5 a.m. You voted. We're up to 100 votes, folks. Thank you so much for that. Again, you guys decide for me. I don't decide for you because you guys are special. You guys make the decision for me. So 43% of you say 3 p.m. 23% of you say 6 p.m. So can this system have a slight shift or wobble in the path while having an eyewall replacement sun? Most certainly. It could have a little bit of a wobble. This has been wobbling around a little bit, according to NHC. All right, it's 9:15, about a couple minutes to 9:15. So it's 3 p.m. Okay, it's Pacific Daylight Time, folks. PDT stands for Pacific Daylight Time. Actually, I'm going to type that up. Pacific Daylight Time equals this. Pacific. So this is Pacific Daylight Time. Okay, that's what PDD stands for. We're up to 120 votes. Good job voting, you guys. This is awesome. If you haven't hit that like button, also do so. We're almost up to 300 likes. Holy cow, that's awesome. So thank you guys for liking tonight's stream. Thank you so much, Aluga. I do appreciate that. And just for reference, Justin, this guy made a huge, nice compliment. Said, David, you are by far the awesome with hurricanes and the best. Thank you so much. David, you do your thing. You are really important and unique. Well, I'm important, but you guys are important. How about that? So you guys, I mean, Justin, it's popping up on infrared. So go to shortwave IR on Tropical Tidbits. Look at that. There is an absolute eye clearing out right now. Look at that. Look at what I sent in the call.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe this isn't at least 100 miles per hour. The most recent satellite estimate, I believe was they put the storm at 93 to 95 miles per hour with a pressure of 981 millibars. Probably a little low, but we'll see what it's like at the next intermediate advisory.
Oh, yeah. What's the chance it can hook to the east and hit Florida? There's like a 1% chance of that happening. What's up, Chase? McLean, how are you doing? Butterdog is here. Hey, Butterdog. Hello, everyone. I hope you all are having a great day. Remember to leave a like if you're enjoying the coverage. Thank you, Butterdog. Yeah, Butterdog, what do you think about having a major hurricane in late June, early July? I want to hear your thoughts on that. I don't know how often you've heard about a major hurricane in late June, early July. You're probably thinking like, whoa, yeah, this is quite rare. You're very welcome, Lori Martin. I try my best at updating you guys. Won't come near Florida. Saul G, that's what Saul G says. Again, there's a 99% chance that it won't hit Florida, and there's a 1% chance that it hits Florida. So there is a very unlikely chance. Thank you, Mike P. I'm the best. I do appreciate that. Will this hit Haiti? There is a slight possibility. If we go to the cone of uncertainty, just for reference, that's why this is there for a reason. Funny enough. Actually, probably not since the cone of uncertainty, but this could still gain. I mean, if it turns like this, it could still impact Haiti, but chances are that it's not going to impact directly. This is pretty wild. Like you've been saying, it feels like August already. Exactly. And I did not show you guys this for the people that are still watching, is I cannot stress enough the upper ocean heat content. And I want to show you this, Justin, since you're still here. The upper ocean heat content. You have to look at this. You literally have to.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's crazy.
I mean, it's breaking records. I mean.
Yeah, it's as high end as you can possibly get in June. It's unbelievable.
That, I sent you more images of that. So the anomaly is on the top, the actual is on the bottom. And let's take a look at sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico. Those are warming up very quickly. In fact, the southern end of Florida has water temperatures of 32 Celsius. Look at the bays of Louisiana, 33 Celsius waters already. Man.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. I do agree with that.
How bad is that compared to other times? I don't know what that question means.
If you're referring to sea surface temperatures, this is the worst it's ever been. The highest the upper ocean heat content in the deep tropics that have ever been on record. I'm not saying that just to cause fear or hype. It's realistic. There's Twitter posts on it that the upper ocean heat content in the deep tropics are the highest they have ever been, and it's only June, late June, and these values typically rival those in early to mid-September. Early to mid-September. So we are about 2.5 to almost 3 months ahead of schedule as far as the upper ocean heat content goes. It is insane. Wow, Justin, this eye is really warming up.
It is. It's also becoming more symmetrical is the main thing I'm noticing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, someone said lots of lightning strikes happening in the eye. Probably not surprising. I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either.
Which the eye temperature right now is about negative 70 degrees, so it's warming up. One day people will not be able to swim in the ocean due to the high temperatures. Hopefully not. That would be bad. David, I went to South Padre, Texas a few weeks ago, and the water was bathtub warm. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Starla Smith, that's a great question. What does it mean if there's lightning in the eyewall? It's pretty atypical to have lightning in a hurricane's core. You do see it in the outer bands, but not typically where the highest winds are in the eyewall. What that means is that you have convective activity in the eyewall. Basically, it's extremely intense thunderstorms, which what that means is rapid intensification. You're typically not seeing lightning in the eyewall unless you have rapid intensification, and that is what we are seeing right now.
That's a bad sign. You can see rapid intensification actually happen. All right, so the water temperatures. I wanted to show you all this on Weather Bell. So the water temperatures in the Caribbean are very warm. We are looking at mid to upper 80 water temperatures. We're looking at, if this even tracks this way, look at it. It has all the warm water to work with. I mean, there's no issues about, oh, water temperatures are too cold. Even down here, the waters are warm enough. And even over here, the waters are warm enough just to the north of the Yucatan. And look at some of these waters along the Florida coast. They are in the 31, 32 Celsius range. That is about 89 to 91-ish degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. That is, if you get a hurricane that moves through that environment, it could end very bad very quickly. And I don't normally show this on my live stream. I really shouldn't, but I will. Is the potential intensity. So you can think about this when looking at this. The maximum potential intensity. This is winds and knots. It really makes sense. Right in here, the maximum potential intensity is about 135 knots. And look at this. In the central Caribbean, there's a little blue area that indicates Category 5 hurricane force winds. If the conditions that are this pristine are able to continue, you could be looking at a strong Category 3 or 4 hurricane. There is some obstacles in the atmosphere that will prevent that from happening, but this is showing us the potential maximum wind intensity. Does not mean it's going to happen, but I mean, essentially, your shear is very light. You have a lot of moisture. It's basically taking this into consideration. Let's go back and look at this. So it's taking everything like this into consideration. Your shear is low enough. Your sea surface temperatures are high enough. Your moisture content is high enough. And your upper ocean heat content is high enough. All those factors lead to what this, if things are perfect in the atmosphere, you can get some intense hurricanes. And look at this. Northwestern Caribbean, Southeastern Gulf, 150 knots is the potential, which look at with what our ship's model indicates. Draw the line and look at the very end of the forecast goes over 160 knots. So that's what that illustrates, basically, is the maximum potential intensity. Does not mean you will get a hurricane that intense. But if things are perfect, things are sure to blow off intense. Which, by the way, Justin, the H-warp has been trending stronger with each run. And the latest run on the 18Z, Justin, has this at 953 millibars.
Yeah, that's crazy. Another person asking about Jamaica, and then another person asking about the Yucatan. Jamaica, definite potential for some direct impacts from this. Models have been trending south with the storm, which is good for the islands of Jamaica, or for the island of Jamaica. However, it's definitely still in the realm of possibility that this thing gets close or even hits Jamaica. So anything from tropical storm force winds to hurricane force winds are possible at this time. In terms of the Yucatan, will the Yucatan take a direct hit? I have a flight going there on Friday. It's currently what day is Saturday, so another week. By that point, I think it'd be past the Yucatan. However, it is possible that this thing directly hits the Yucatan. It'll be weaker than when it hits some of the islands that it's going to in the next couple days, but it's possible that it directly impacts the Yucatan for sure.
Wow, 2 hours stream. I just realized that. Good job. I wanted to, Cactus C made a huge good compliment about you and me, Justin. Says, David and Justin, you're doing an amazing job. You're helping people get warning a few days to perhaps a week out. Keep up the great work.
Thank you for that.
And if I could give that see if I can give that, oh, I'm not able to react. Oh, wait, am I? Darn it. I can't. I wish you could put like or a heart next to that, because that was great. So for the people that haven't voted yet, the vote poll has been up for 19 minutes. Please vote if you haven't already. Vote on what time I should live stream tomorrow in Pacific Daylight Time. All right? That's in the United States, Pacific Daylight Time. That's California time, in other words. Do you want me to go live at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., or 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time? So plus or minus 3 or 4 hours, depending on which time zone you're in. All right. So this would be 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., or 9 p.m. if you're in the Eastern Daylight Time Zone.
In the north of Jamaica for Mr. Cruise 85, you're not escaping wind and rain with this thing. That's the only way to put it. If you're going to be in Jamaica, you're going to get wind and rain.
At this point, if you look at the H-warp specifically, it's potentially devastating impacts. Very much heavy rainfall. But we shall wait to see what those 0Z runs look like, and we shall get one here soon. We yet to get our 0Z runs out. Boy, they're taking forever and ever. I
believe the 0Z GFS is out. Let's see what that thing does. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Not as strong. What? It's nice.
For all the Texas people, once again, the GFS is totally different than last run. Yet again, like we've been pointing out, it's weaker than it was last run by the time it gets to Texas or Mexico, or anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico. So anything that far out in the realm of possibility. There's no reason for concern yet, but you should keep a watchful eye on it.
Man, it's
And yeah, it's neater just the whole way through, which is kind of odd, but the GFS is generally not a great model, so.
It goes a little more crazier with our second system. That is 977 millibars when it gets over the island. So maybe another hurricane. 2 hurricanes in the same areas. Oh my gosh, Justin.
Yeah, at least to start out, definitely.
So yeah, wow. That second disturbance really gotta watch. Okay, Matrix, I'm leaving for Jamaica on Monday. My plane company is not canceling my flight when you expect them to do.
If you're leaving on Monday, they probably won't cancel it. No. What is that, 3 days away?
Someone's traveling for work. That's... Oh, man. Sorry, we got...
I mean, we're not airline companies. We can't really tell you if your airline's going to cancel your plane.
Sorry, we're weather people, not airline people.
Some airlines operate differently when it comes to this kind of thing. So, I mean, it kind of depends on what airline you're in and what the airport does with this kind of thing. We can't tell you.
All I can tell you right now is we are definitely watching Beryl, and then soon to become either Chris or Debbie. Debbie, if the one in the Yucatan gets named, maybe at most a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm. And then if it's Chris, it's because the one in the Yucatan did not get named. But we're gonna have another name on the list either way, either Chris or Debbie, one of those.
Definitely.
And Justin, I'm laughing at this because it's like, geez, maybe 4 named storms. 4 named storms in nearly a month.
2024 seems to be the year of deception. The tornado season started out really slow and then went crazy out of nowhere. The hurricane season, I mean, some people thought it started out slow. I thought it started out pretty normally, but I mean, I guess it started out slow and we see how that's going now. So, yeah, that's all I can say about that.
So also, Justin, you know that Greenfield, Iowa tornado? Because I talked to Ethan the other night.
I do know that tornado very well, yes.
It was ranked and rated the second most most intense. I think it's the second or third most intense tornado in history.
I actually saw that it was rated the most intense tornado in history based off of wind speeds. It beat Bridge Creek in terms of actual recorded wind speeds on Dow. So yeah, it's number 1 right now, actually.
Yeah, and we were live for that, for the Greenfield tornado. Oh my gosh, windmills shredded and mangled. That's insane.
I remember that. That is definitely a tornado I will not forget.
No. All right, Starla apparently is probably going on a cruise. Why do I have a bad feeling that getting on my Caribbean cruise ship tomorrow will be the end? I could try. I'm so worried by this. I don't know what to do. So Chase replies by saying Starla cruise ships typically will go around these storms. The waves might be pretty choppy though. So that's a decision, Starla, you're gonna have to make. Should I go on my cruise or should I not?
I can tell you, I don't think the cruise people are going to put you in an uncomfortable or unsafe place. I think they're going to make their decisions similar to an airline based off of safety first. So ultimately, it's up to you. We can't tell you what to do, but I doubt that your cruise ship is going to put you in an unsafe position.
Okay, if I go to Jamaica on July 8th instead, should I expect the island to be destroyed for my trip? Ugh, that's
No.
if you love
I don't know
water.
what. Go ahead.
Uluga said, if you love water, go, and if you like thrills. I don't know what. We're
I mean, I don't think the island's gonna be destroyed. I think the island's gonna be fine. Could there be some damage? Yeah, but like, I don't. Destroyed's a strong word.
Mike P. Oh, this is important. I don't know if he got this from a source on the internet. Hear this out, Justin. Beryl is going to be, not May, but Beryl is going to be the strongest June storm on record.
Um,
What are your thoughts on that?
well, let's see. I mean, I don't know what the strongest. Hold on. Okay, Hurricane Audrey is the strongest recorded June hurricane. Winds of 125 miles per hour. So
Oh, crap.
it could. It could be the strongest. We'll see.
Oh my gosh. If it hits 130, dude. If it hits 130, that's wow.
The question, though, is will it do that on July 1st or June?
We have an entire day. But here's the thing. Here's a good question for you, Justin, and for the viewers. It formed on June 28th, yesterday, right? My question is, does it count? Because it formed on June, but it didn't get to major intensity until July. That's my question.
Yeah, David, real quick, just take a look at the GDPS.
GDPS, oh,
Or CMC, one of the two, same model.
okay. What am I looking for?
The track of this.
Oh my gosh, towards Louisiana.
See, this is what we mean, guys. We have one model that pulls it into the Eastern Pacific. We have one model that hits Mexico. We have one model that hits Texas, and we have one model that hits Louisiana. So when you ask us to predict where this thing is going to go in a week, we cannot tell you because these models are all over the place, as they should be this far out.
My gosh, the JMA model wants this to actually be absorbed with the monsoon gyre in the ABC Islands. What a crazy forecast that is. I bet it hits Mexico, Marvin says. Thank you for the donation, Gaming with Braxton. I do appreciate that, bud, for the 5. What are the chances of Beryl not getting Jamaica? Oh, that's a tough question.
Possible. It's possible.
It's possible, but it's simple. I'm not going to say no or yes. It's possible.
Definitely possible. It's possible. It hits it. It's possible. It misses it by a decent margin. I mean, anything's possible.
You know, I have this eerie feeling. I'm going to go to REL and check the ADT. Something just tells me to go check it. I have a bad feeling. If my brain is telling me to do that, we might have a problem. Okay, it's at 80 knots. Right now it's at 80 knots. But the maximum raw T numbers, Justin, are at 4.9. So doing the math. It's at 90. It's at 90 knots right now.
Yeah, I would say something around 100 miles per hour is where I'd put it right now.
Yeah, it's at about 100. Wow, that eye's clearing out. Can you look at the storm structure in 3D? I can, but it's going to be this. This is a storm in 3D, folks. Look at that. This is the three-dimensional view of Beryl. That's the 3D. Wow, look at that monster. I agree. Yep. That doesn't look like minimum Cat 2, Justin Wilson said. Then how strong do you think it is, you all, right now? You guys are the intensity estimates. You all guess how strong this is, while also voting on what time I should stream. 50% of those people say I should go at 3 p.m. tomorrow, so that's probably what we'll end up doing. Wow, Aiden says 110. Actually, I'm going to turn off the slow-mo. I don't think we really need it anymore, so I'm going to turn off slow-mo. All right. Someone says 90 miles an hour, which seems probably plausible based on the ADT. Aiden said 110. Corbin, 115. That's a category 3. Wow. Talk more about Jamaica, please. Wow. Okay. Tomorrow we will talk a lot more about Jamaica. It is almost 10 o'clock here. Why slow mode is off? Because I will enable it again tomorrow. So I think we gotten through a lot of the questions. This is a 2-hour stream. I don't want to end it, but someone's got to get some shut-eye. After all, it was a hot, sweaty day at work where I worked in 100-degree weather doing carts outside. That's a lot of fun. But I was able to still live stream on the hurricane, somewhat, pretty much discuss it and everything. We will be discussing it tomorrow again, just like we did today. And then I don't work until Monday afternoon, which means I might be able to sneak a little bit of a live stream in there. Maybe early Monday morning. We should see. We will see. All right. Well, anyways, folks, thank you all for tuning into tonight's live stream on Hurricane Beryl's live information. You guys got a lot of the information that you all need. Share, like, and subscribe because you guys are awesome. You guys are the team of watchers that make this all possible. So share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon. And also check out my Twitter for more information on this. I'll probably be posting an update once the next advisory or intermediate advisory comes out in the next hour or two. I love you guys. Talk to you guys tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. All right, set your alarms for 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That's what time I'm going live at, according to all of the votes. All right, peace, folks.
Thank you.